Hello everybody. Today we're going over Packet Tracer Lab 2.5.5 from the Cisco Intro to Networking class. This lab is entitled Configure Initial Switch Settings. That's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to just take care of switches and learn how to configure them initially. We're also going to learn about an MOTD banner that stands for Message of the Day, and we're going to end up saving the configuration to NVRAM. So let's get started. In part one of this lab, we are going to verify the default switch configuration, and we're going to start in step one by entering privileged exec mode. When we're in privileged exec mode, we have more commands available to us than we have in our regular mode. So let's get started with the instructions here. It says part A, click switch 1 and then the CLI tab, then press enter. So let's click with our left mouse button, click switch 1, and we have the CLI tab here. It's our only choice. And then if you look down here, let me pull this up so you can see the whole thing. You can see that we're not at a prompt, and over here in the message it says press return to get started. So I'm going to click top here so this doesn't disappear on us, and then I'm going to click enter, and now we can see that we are in the switch here. Whenever you see chatter on the line and you're not sure what to do, try hitting enter and see if you can get into the device that way. So here we are in the switch, and that greater than sign tells me that I am in user exec mode. So I want to get into privileged exec mode. That's what part B is about. All we have to do that is type the word enable and hit enter. And notice that the prompt changes from a greater than sign to a hashtag. That tells us we're in privileged exec mode. For step 2, examine the current switch configuration. So we want to see what the switch is set up for. So it says enter the show running config command. Here's how we do it. We type show running -config and hit enter. And now let's see where that command is. So I want you to see, here's where we typed it, show running config, and here's the information that it's telling us about. It tells us the version number is 15.0. It's asking us some questions about it. How many fast Ethernet interfaces does the switch have? Well, it doesn't say right here. It's starting to talk about it right there. It's starting to write out how many fast Ethernets there are. But notice this more message. If you press the space bar, you'll be able to see more. And every time I get that, I'm going to hit the space bar. There's a lot of information here. And now that I've hit the space bar repeatedly and until I get back to the prompt, I can move my toggle over here and I can move up and see, okay, the answer to the question, how many fast Ethernet interfaces does this switch have? It has 24 of them. The last one is 24. How many gigabit Ethernet interfaces does the switch have? It has 1, 2. What is the range of values shown for the VTY lines? Okay, let's see if we can find something that says VTY. Here it is. It says line VTY 04 and then line VTY 515. So it goes from 0 up to 15. That is the range. Then it says which command will display the current contents of non-volatile random access memory, NVRAM. That command is something called show startup -configuration. And then the last question, why does the switch respond with startup config is not present? The answer to that is it displays this message because the configuration file was not saved to NVRAM. Currently, it is only located in RAM. Okay, moving on to part 2. Create a basic switch configuration. So let's go ahead and do some basic programming to this switch. We're going to start off in step 1 by assigning it a name. Instead of just being called switch, which is its default, we're going to give it a different name. The first command here is configure terminal. So let's type that in and then hit enter. And now we want to give it a name. So, well, first of all, let's take a note here that the prompt has changed to config mode. So we're configuring this switch. The command to name a switch is host name, and then whatever we type after that is going to be its name. And I want to type in capital S and the number 1 and hit enter. And we get our first percentage points here. See, 6% right there. All right, and now I want to exit, and I am back. I'm going to hit enter again because see the chatter on the line here? I am back at S1 hashtag. Notice the name of my switch just changed to S1. All right, step 2, secure access to the console line. So to secure access to the console line, access config line mode and set the console password to let me in. We are going to secure this by giving it a password so that not anybody can get into the privileged exec mode. So we want to go back into configure terminal, hit enter. And then we are to enter all of these commands one line at a time. We're going to hit enter after each one. So the first one is line console 0. We are accessing this through the console. And when somebody tries to enter through the console port, we want to make a password be required. So there's my password, let me in. And I want that to be a login password. So I type login. Then I'm just exiting out of here. And the question is, why is the login command required? That's because in order for the password checking process to work, I need to set the password and also say that I want it to occur when somebody tries to log in. Okay, so I've hit enter again to get back to S1 hashtag. Let's move on to step 3. You can check our percentages too. I'm at 18% right now. Step 3, verify that console access is secured. Exit privileged exec mode to verify that the console port password is in effect. We're going to test it out now. So type exit. And it says return to get started. So I'm going to hit enter again and see how it says user access verification. It's requiring a password. Remember what the password was? Let me in. And I want you to notice here that it doesn't look like anything is being typed when you type in the password, but it is recording the keystrokes that you're making. So hit enter when you're done. And I typed it correctly because here I am inside of the switch. If you didn't get prompted for a password, then you made a mistake somewhere up there in step 2 and you need to fix it. All right, let's move on to step 4, secure privileged exec mode access. Okay, well, we want to make sure that people, even if they get into this initial mode, they can't get into privileged exec mode and make changes that we don't want them to make. So we're going to set a password for that enable command. All of the steps are right here, and they've given us a bit of a wacky password. You can see it right here. And by the way, it's saying that the O is a 0, not a capital O. So let's make sure we type it correctly. And there are the steps for it. So type enable, enter, configure, terminal, enter, enable password, and then make sure you type this carefully. C1 $ C and the number 0. Hit enter and then exit and enter. Hit enter again, just get rid of the chatter there. And I'm still at 18%. Okay, so verifying this, we're going to exit out of this mode. Hit enter. Now remember, to get into the initial mode, the privileged exec mode, we want to type the password, let me in. Oh, that was for user exec mode. And now to get into privileged exec mode, we want to type the word enable, and then that password that we just made, C1 $C0, and we're in. Okay. The first password is the console password you configured for LineCon0. We entered that. Then we entered the second password. And now that we're here in part F, it wants us to verify the configuration by examining the contents of the running configuration file. So this is the file that we're working in. It hasn't been saved yet, but we've made some changes and we want to see what those changes look like. So type show running config, hit enter, and it's showing us what's going on. We still have the same version, and we have a host name. We have an enable password. If I hit the space bar, I can see more, and there's that information about the ports again. And then you can see on the console line, I have a let me in password, and that is for logging in. I'm going to hit the space bar to get to the end, and that's all of our information. All right, let's move on to step 6. Configure an encrypted password to secure access to privilege mode. All right, here are the instructions here. And let me explain to you why we're doing this. The enable password should be replaced with the newer encrypted secret password using the enable secret command. Set the enable secret password to it's a secret. Okay, so we're going to follow those directions. Config T, enable secret, it's a secret. Make sure you type it right so you can get back in again, or you might have to restart the lab. All right, I'm going to hit enter and then exit. Now I want to verify that this worked. So look at step 7. Verify that the enable secret password is added to the configuration file. So right here, let's type show run. Now they're telling us for the first time that we can type a shortcut instead of show running -config. The show running -config command is the only one that starts with show run. So we can just shorten it to show run and hit enter. It'll know what to do. Okay, let's take a look at this time. Before, our enable password was written out just like it was, let me in. It told us what it was. That's not very secure because if somebody can get into this show run command, they'll be able to see what the password is. So enable secret has scrambled it, and now we have no idea what that password is. Well, we do, but nobody else does. Okay, look at step 8 now. By the way, we're at 23%. If you're not there, you should go ahead and make sure you've got all of the steps done. I'm going to hit spacebar to show the rest of that and get back to the S1 hashtag. Okay, step 8, encrypt the enable and console passwords. So notice how the password for let me in, I can't tell what it is anymore, but I can still see the enable password. I see exactly what it is. So we are going to encrypt that also in step 8. So for that, normally I would type configure terminal, but there's a shortcut for that one, config T. Get used to that. It's something we use a lot, and it's a shortcut instead of typing configure terminal. Hit enter. And now we want to type this command, service password -encryption. Hit enter and then exit. If it doesn't give you a message there, that's usually a pretty good sign that you typed it correctly. So now we'll get to exit. And I'm going to hit enter again so I can get to the prompt, S1 hashtag. I'm at 34%, And I'm on part 3 now. Configure a message of the day banner. Message of the day. This is a message that's going to show up whenever somebody accesses the switch. So we want to give them a message. We want to tell them, hey, you're in a secure system. Don't stay here if you're not supposed to be here. So let's first type in config t. Now we're in config mode. And then the next command, banner, MOTD. And whatever you type in quotes right now is going to show up as a message when somebody accesses this switch. Now you have to start and close it with quotes. Going to hit enter. And then I'm going to type exit to get back to S1 hashtag. So we have a question here. When will this be displayed? It's going to be displayed when somebody accesses the switch through the console port. The next question, why should every switch have an MOTD banner? And it's to warn the unauthorized users that access is prohibited. Banners can also be used for sending messages to network personnel and technicians. All right, we are on to part 4, and I am at 43%. I hope you are also. Save and verify configuration files to NVRAM. So step 1, verify that the configuration is accurate using the show run command. So we're going to start by saving the configuration file. So everything we've done so far has not been saved to the configuration file. We have to force that to happen. So we're going to type the next command, copy running -config space startup -config. This is telling the switch, copy what is in this running configuration, the one we've been using, the one we've been running with right now, and we're copying it to the startup configuration so that whenever this switch starts up, it's going to have this configuration. So I'm going to hit enter. It's going to ask me a question. Destination file name startup config, and that is fine. It's going to be fine 99% of the time. So hit enter again, and it's building the configuration. It says okay, and I'm back to S1 hashtag. We have another question here. What is the shortest abbreviated version of the copy running config space startup config? And we can make it really, really short. We could type COP space RS. Let me type that here for you. We could do COP RS. Usually my students do copy RS. All right. And by the way, it's a good idea to keep a running list of all of these commands. These are used over and over and over again, not just for switches, but also for routers. All right, examine the startup configuration file. Which command will display the contents of NVRAM? All right, if we type show startup-config, it's going to show us what that configuration is. So let's go ahead and find where we typed that so we can see what's been printed so far. Right here, show startup config. So we've got the usual information that we've seen so far, version 15, hostname S1, the enable password, and it's secret. We can't tell what it is. It's encrypted. The enable password is also encrypted. Let's click the space bar so we can see more. Nothing new there. It's all those fast Ethernet ports and the gigabit Ethernet. We have the VLANs. And look what we have here. Banner message of the day. We have a password on LineCon 0. We set that up. And that's going to happen when somebody tries to log in. So everything looks pretty good. And we are on 50% now. All right, moving on to part 5, configure switch 2. You have completed the configuration on switch 1. You will now configure switch 2. If you cannot remember the commands, refer to parts 1 through 4 for assistance. This time the device name is going to be switch 2, so make sure you do that. The enabled password is still the same. The secret password is it's a secret. And we want to do everything we just did to switch 1, but we want to do it to switch 2. That should get us the other 50%. So let's X out and we'll go ahead and configure switch 2. I'm going to left click on it. Here I am in the command line interface. Let me bring that up and click the top button. It says return to get started. So I'm going to hit return and there I am. Now you can go back to part 1 and you can start typing all the commands. The first thing we did was enable. If you care to, you can type show running -config and take a look at this configuration. It should pretty much be the same. Right now the host name is switch. We're going to change that. I'm going to hit the space bar. Once again, I have 24 fast Ethernet ports and 2 gigabit Ethernets. Nothing is really configured yet. I'm going to press the space bar again and let's keep moving on to configure switch 2. We need to assign the name, so configure terminal, and there I am in config mode. You can see that in parentheses, and I want to type host name, but this time capital S with a 2. Hit enter and then exit out of there. Now I want to secure the access to the console line. So I'm going to type configure terminal. Just to show you a shortcut, let's type config space T. That gets me into config mode. That's a nice shortcut. We have to get into config mode frequently, so try to remember that one. Now I'm going to type line console 0. Password let me in. Login, I want that to occur during login. I want to exit and exit again. Hitting enter to get back to switch to hashtag. You should be at 68% right now. All right, let's verify that that worked by typing the word exit. It says press return to get started. I should type let me in. Remember, it's not going to show like it's typing anything. So just type let me in and hit enter. And if you do it correctly, it should work. We want to set the enable password. So enable. Configure terminal. I'm going to type config space T as my shortcut. Enable password. And remember, we want to type C1 $C and the number 0. Ooh, you know what? I mistyped something up there, I see. Enable. Okay, it looks all right now. By the way, you can hit enter at any place within that line and it'll work. Okay, it seems to have liked that. Then I'm going to exit. Let's verify this. So let's exit out again. Let me in. And then type enable. And the password now is C1 $C0. And it worked. So everything is good. I am at 68%. I don't think that changed. Let's move on. We want to configure an encrypted password to secure access to privileged mode. If you're following along from the first part of the lab, I'm at step 6 for switch 2 here. So I want to type config T, enable secret, and it's going to be it's a secret. Hit enter and then exit. And I'm at 73%. If you want to check on that, you can type show run, and that'll show the running configuration. You can see we've changed the host name, We've got our secret password here. It's encrypted. Our enabled password is not encrypted yet. Hit the space bar for more and more and more and more. And you can see our password is let me in. That's a login password for the line con 0, the console line. We're going to encrypt the enable and console passwords. So type config T again. And the command for that is service password dash encryption. Hit enter and exit. And I'm at 84%. Next on our list of things to do is the message of the day. I'm going to hit enter again here because I lost my prompt again. And I'm going to type config T because I need to be in configuration mode in order to make a message of the day. I'm going to type that same banner that we did for the first one, banner message of the day. Now remember the quotation mark. This is a secure system. Oops, I spelled secure wrong. Authorized access only. I'm going to hit enter. I did it correctly. If you didn't, it'll give you an error and you can try again. And then I'm going to exit out of there. I'm at 93%. Possibly the last thing we need to do is copy this into the startup mode. So let's go ahead and say copy, run, start. That's a shortcut for copy running dash config space startup config. Hit enter. It's going to ask you that question, is that where we want it to go? And the answer is yes, so just hit enter. And we're at 100%. You have finished this lab. Go ahead and message me if there are any labs that you want to see in particular. But for now, we are all done at 100%.